The current heat wave in Uganda, bordering 40 degrees Celsius, is indicative of a global climate crisis, one riddled with unequal resource and power distributions. Amidst all this, the most vulnerable in our society, from women, children, and the elderly, are disproportionately being affected, especially in a country like Uganda that is predominantly dependent on agriculture, a, um, a field that is heavily reliant on stable climate systems. Today, the topic of discussion is particularly contained to the heat wave in Uganda and its effects, as well as, the causes, the far-reaching causes, and the policies surrounding our climate reaction as a country and the globe. With me today to discuss this very pertinent topic is an illustrious panel whom I shall introduce from my far left coming in. On my extreme left is Nancy Caroline Ayot, a very familiar face, I'm sure. She is a feminist and a lawyer and a writer. Good afternoon and welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for honoring our invite. And right next to her is Joan Akakikunda. Joan is the programs manager, Women and Girl Child Development Association, as well as a lawyer and a women's rights activist. Good afternoon, Joan. We are extremely happy to have you and your particular take on this discussion. Right next to her is our resident quote-unquote expert on the matter, Ayebare Denise. Denise is the executive director of Better Life International, as well as a climate justice advocate.
Thank you so much for having me, Danita.
Thank you for honoring our invite. And right next to me is somewhat of a familiar face, Honorable Dr. Miria Matembe. The good doctor is a child of God and a senior citizen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me, but I want to really say today I am here to learn. I thank the Lord for the opportunity to appear with these Gen Zs, because today they are going to teach me a lot about this climate change. I shall be coming in as and when I am provoked to say something.
Of course.
Maybe to tell them how I'm experiencing it so badly, being a senior citizen, as you said,
Yes.
the elderly,
Yes.
how it affects us.
Oh, don't worry, Honorable. I'm sure there is a lot you can contribute to this particular discussion. So yes, good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to the show. This is Women Speaking. My name is Turiho, Danita, and I will be your host. Jumping right into the discussion, Denise, as our resident expert, I will be starting the discussion with you. Could you start maybe by sharing your take on this particular heat wave and how it's unfolding in the country right now, from what is driving it to who is feeling it the most, and why it is so pertinent that we address and tackle this issue efficiently and diligently?
Okay, thank you so much, Danita. So on the topic of heat waves and how it is affecting and who is the most affected and what is driving it. So I'll just start with what is driving it, and then I'll go down to maybe countries, maybe the African countries, the least developed countries, and the small island states. And I think this is not the first that we are hearing about heat waves. As you can see also in the US, they were also affected, and you heard of the fires that were burning down different houses and all that, the heat waves. And you could see in different countries, they're experiencing the same heat waves. But the major driver of the heat waves has not been as our actions could have caused, but the global north really is in charge of whatsoever is happening. Because for far too long, the global north developed on things like exploitation of resources, on things like pollution, on things like cutting down forests. African countries, the least developed countries, did not participate in things like the Industrial Revolution, where you find that you are plugging things like fossil fuels, oil, and all the likes of what is happening. For example, you have where it is unfair, where you have maybe Europe, like the Germans, telling you you should stop the production of coal, you should stop the production of oil, because it's fossil fuels that are the largest driver of global warming. they're the largest driver of the climate crisis, fossil fuels.
So by fossil fuels, you mean just for
Oil, coal, the mining of such minerals and all that. But the double standards that exist, for example, the US is going to tell you, please go sustainable. You need hybrid cars, you need electric motorcycles, and the likes of that. Yet, they are depending on oil for the past 100 years, Rockefeller. Germany is going to tell you, please stop mining coal. They're going to tell South Africa, stop depending on coal. Yet they are opening up new coal mines within Germany, within Europe, within Norway. They're mining oil. And the economies have continuously depended on the exploitation of these minerals that drive the climate crisis. Because this is where you have the biggest greenhouse gases coming from. The carbon dioxide that causes the global warming and the whole science of the ozone layer and the whole heat waves. So you find that it is problematic that you're supposed to go sustainable, or they are putting on you a cross that you should go sustainable without resources, without technology, without any finance to finance the repatriation of what they cause to the environment. Like I said, they participated in things like colonialism, where they plundered the resources. Then you had the Industrial Revolution after World War II, where these countries were into development and all that. But that doesn't mean that we are not responsible also for what is happening. Because in Uganda, we have continuously plundered our own resources. When you look at Miria forest that used to be as big as what, when you go inside, it's not there. When you look at Lake Victoria and you look at the sand mining that happens and how it has continuously shrinked. And this speaks to all the Bugoma forest and all the forests we have in the country. And these usually, in science, act as carbon sinks. They take in the heat that comes from the ozone layer and they're able to maintain our temperatures. But we are at that level where wetlands have been occupied, and it is justified for NEMA to say you should get out of the wetlands, but then it is not justified when the residents, the citizens of Uganda get out of the wetlands. Then you have the Chinese building industries. You have different foreigners putting in rice, planting rice in these wetlands. Yet these are usually carbon sinks that take in what is known as the heat, is what is known as the carbon dioxide. So when you do not have any of those carbon sinks existing, then you're definitely going to have all these heat waves rise and all that. And who is going to be the most affected? The vulnerable people. And here you're talking about women, you're talking about girls who have to walk distances to fetch water, meaning they have to forego things like school. Because usually, even in our traditional setup, even right now, even back at home, it's usually known that maybe girls are the ones supposed to do chores, women are the ones supposed to do chores. So you find that you have to walk a distance probably of 15 kilometers now. If you had a well nearby, it has dried up. And the next where you could probably get water is 5 kilometers, and that means 5 to 5. Meaning girls are going to miss out on going to school as early as possible. If you come from school, you're going to miss out on probably doing your homework because you have to walk such a distance to get water. And it doesn't stop there. Like you had said, Uganda is an economy that is based on agriculture. And these are farmers that probably get loans from Pride Microfinance, knowing that they're going to plant their crops and they're going to grow, and then you suddenly have a heat wave where your crops are going to dry up. Now, it does not only mean that you do not pay back that loan, but the crops you are going to depend on, the hunger that comes with it. You're going to look at food insecurity. You're going to look at health problems that come with the heat wave. I know most of us are experiencing things like headaches, migraines, and all that comes with the heat wave affecting us. So the prolonged heat waves do not only affect us, maybe saying that it's just a heat wave. The agriculture, the economy is affected, but also health-wise, we are also affected. And you're going to look at a crisis that is a water crisis. You have a food crisis, food insecurity, and it is necessarily how you affect the most vulnerable, the children, malnutrition, and it goes on and goes on and goes on. So we are responsible, but largely I would blame the global north, and I would say the most vulnerable groups within society are the most affected.
Okay, thank you, Denise. A follow-up question. So we have spoken a lot about what the government isn't doing, especially in regards to our wetland, in regards to our forests, in regards to generally how we have mismanaged the environment. But what is the government doing? What are our policies in place? What are our frameworks and the like? And how is our implementation going?
Okay, so I think there are different things that have been tried to be done by the Ministry of Water, mostly the Climate Change Department. You see, the climate change and its solutions are governed by negotiations. It's more of geopolitics that exists. Because you could sit down in a conference where you have a Paris Agreement or a Kyoto Protocol come up. And in these conferences you have that, you know what, we are supposed to do this. We are supposed to probably go sustainable. We are supposed to provide funds. We are supposed to provide technological transfer to developing countries to be able to sort the crisis. But the same countries that would tell you that are the same countries that are having double standards and not doing anything about the crisis, as they are continuously mining oil. But the Ministry of Water and Environment, especially the Climate Change Department, they came up with what is known as the Nationally Determined Contributions. These NDCs, that's how they're shortened. These Nationally Determined Contributions is to a global one. There is a global NDC that exists. So here, agriculture, forestry, land use, business as usual, they're supposed to find a way how they can cut down emissions. They're supposed to find a way how they can cut down waste. Even when the Chitezi incident happened, and I think this was so unfair, because in developed countries, people die of old age, they die because maybe, they don't die because of rubbish, really. It is something that is... it is something that is vile, like it's so vile, exactly. People dying of rubbish just because we couldn't maintain our own rubbish. So they're trying to ensure that policies are put there for waste management and all that. But then besides that, they also have national adaptation plans. How do we adapt to the climate crisis? Because we cannot talk about mitigation as a country. We do not produce much emissions, let's say carbon dioxide. It's mostly about adaptation. How do we ensure that people can adapt to things like floods? How can we put in place early warning systems? How can we ensure that people can be able to adapt to the heat? So when we talk about adaptation, it is not more of mitigation. We are going to talk about greenhouse gases and all that. So how do we adapt to this? And they have put a health NAP, and Uganda was one of the first countries in Africa to have a health national adaptation plan. Because you see, the climate crisis also becomes a health crisis. For example, if you have floods, you're necessarily going to have typhoid, diarrhea, and all that. If you have a heat wave, like I've told you, you're going to have an increase in diseases. You're going to have an increase in how people feel and all that. So Uganda was one of the first 4 countries last year in 2024 to be able to adopt a health national adaptation plan, where they teach the VHTs, those are the village health teams, and other different teams in the village to be able to adapt to how the climate crisis becomes also a health crisis. So policies have been put in place, and if you look at also how they are discussing, there is something called the carbon credits, where developed countries pay to have those carbon credits. But I actually don't believe in that phenomenon. Because if you go and pollute in Mexico, and then you come and buy carbon credits in Uganda and say, I'm going to buy these trees, this coffee, I'm going to pay farmers to continuously plant, I don't know how it helps the planet really.
I mean, they hinge for the theory of them offsetting what they're doing and with actions, but is that...
But it doesn't work, because you're still, the more carbon credits you buy, the more carbon you can produce in the atmosphere. So if I'm like China, and I go and pollute probably somewhere where in Bangladesh or anything, and I come back in Africa and say I'm offsetting my carbon, you've already polluted. So, and you see the climate crisis knows no jurisdiction. If you have a heat wave in Somalia, it's going to blow towards Kenya, Uganda. That's why Karamoja really experiences sometimes heat waves that other parts of the country do not experience. If you're going to have maybe floods or landslides in Bugahinga or Rwanda, they're likely going to also affect Uganda, because the climate crisis knows no jurisdiction. It affects everyone across borders. It doesn't care for the passports you hold. It doesn't care for the nationality you hold. But the Ministry of Water is trying to put into place policies that can actually help. Now there is a clean cooking agenda that is moving on with the Ministry of Energy, because you see, indoor pollution kills up to 8% of infants in our homes because of using charcoal, using firewood, and that's all indoor pollution. So they're trying to come up with clean energy cooking methods that could be able to help such. They're trying to come, of course you have seen the electric bikes. Even when people don't want to board the electric bikes because they don't make noise at night, and people say they are for thieves. So you find that all those things, like the mindset change. And people in villages also don't want to use things like briquettes, because they will tell you, I don't like the smell of my matoke. when I use briquettes. Me, I want to feel it when I use firewood. So you find that mindset change is also being tried to change a lot. So they're putting into place policies that can be able to help. And even when we can discuss the early warning systems, how they work, they have tried to put them in place in areas like WEGCDA and all that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that very, very in-depth introduction to our topic, Denise. I can say I've been ably educated on the matter. Honorable Matembe, Denise has spoken quite a bit in regards to our policies as a country. From I would say a historical perspective, for years the government has been told, do not cut down our forests. For instance, Miria, Uganda, do not allow people into our wetlands. Otherwise, we're going to be having a climate crisis that we cannot avert. And yet, for years, this has been something that has been sidelined, even in regards to our budgeting. In our budgeting, we would have more that has been put towards security and maybe economic policies as opposed to climate adaptation measures or even things in regards to health. But we have, basically what we have had is the government sidelining policies of this nature. Now, in the face of something so evident, that is the heat wave, we're all feeling it. There is no way to disregard its existence. Do you think that the government, with the nature of governance we have, policies are going to start changing? People are going to start moving towards actually taking actions, towards making it so that we're actually doing something to avert this climate crisis, or are we?
It's quite unfortunate that you are driving me into this debate before I'm learning everything I wanted to learn. But anyway, at least I want to thank this little girl here for that fantastic knowledge that she has. And that makes me very proud as a person who went out onto the public platform to fight for girls and women. See a young lady here knowing all that. I'm telling you, I don't know that, but she now knows because she's a fruit of what we planted out there. Now, thanks, my young lady. I'm glad to be by your side. You are my grandchild because I'm a senior citizen. I'm very happy. Now, having said that, I want to say that the Bible says that a fool is that one who knows what to do and does not do it. Because it's a long, long time since we heard about these climate change issues. I remember very well when Beatrice Anywa, when she had not been bought and bowed to the authority, that instead of sticking to her God and make sure that her purpose is fulfilled, during that time when they were fighting and she was fighting for the forest, I remember the president saying, who are they who know the forest more than I do? Me who fought in the forest and fought in the bush. That kind of shallow knowledge of the whole issue. But then it overtook the incident, and Mama Mavira, I don't know whether she still has that name. Unfortunately, she must have lost it because she bowed. But I don't blame her because I think she was being tortured right and left. Remember one time when she had an accident, and so she could not persevere, or she could not apply her resilience. But if she had remained like that, together with the rest, if these issues that affect every individual in this country and world over are not politicized, because you see that struggle for protecting our environment was destroyed or failed because it was politicized. It was politicized. And yet, if they had allowed people like Beatrice and the rest to run with that matter, probably, irrespective of the fact that, as Denise says, that the always blaming there, irrespective of that, we could have secured our environment, as she was saying, because she said, although those people are doing that, you can protect yourself when you do what is right within your own environment, and the impact could probably be be
Mitigated.
curtailed or mitigated. But then we didn't, because of that ignorance and politicization of issues for humanity by the government, because it is determined to stay in power forever. Because you can know now, if you know, you go to that Mavira forest, how did it get destroyed? Corruption. Eh? If you go to, don't you remember this, what hotel is this below? What is this place? What was it called? Garden City?
Yeah, Garden City.
Hey, that whole hotel of Garden City and the supermarket, Oasis Mall. I remember Chams and that man Chams and again Mavira, because for me that is not my area of passion. But Beatrice and Chams and the rest, they really fought against that. But if you were to find out who is behind, whose building is that, the whole of that, whose is it? Eh? Now, when you look at, I looked at the TV, I don't know whether that thing was true, where they have chased away all those people. Is it in Nansana where? Where they chased all of them, and me, I was saying, when these people saw it is their fault, because if they had told them and they all know that this is a wetland, why should they build there? I was feeling sorry with them, but also saying disobedience and ignorance is no excuse at all. It's no good at all. But then one day, I saw a video on TV. They were shouting, the local people were shouting because the big people had brought in the Chinese, and they had already brought tractors to build. I don't know whether that thing stayed. I don't know whether they put their buildings or what. I don't know. But if it is true that they have built there, then if it is true, then we don't have a government. We just have stupidity running this country. Because I cannot imagine. When I looked at it, I said, but these Ugandans also. I could not believe it. But then I never followed on it, because, you know, my interest is really a different one. If it is true that in that Nansana, where they chased away people, women cried and they suffered. If it is true that they have put an investor in that place, then please, Ugandans, know that we are ruled by fools. I'm sorry, I'll speak that word like that. Because I can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. And so, having said that, because you are the one who provoked me, don't take me, I came to learn. Don't take me into policies. Which policies? Which policy is not in this country? Which rule is not in this country? The ones of corruption, the one of gender-based violence, the one of oppression. Which policy is not here? We simply do not have a government for the people, by the people, of the people. We have a government which is driven by pure personal and family interest. And then Ugandans, we have been turned into fools because we know what to do and we don't do it. It's so sad. Me, I'm telling you, we've been talking, but what I experience is too much. You know, like when I walked in here and there was this air conditioner and I was coming from that heat. And when I walked in this room, I almost collapsed. Because for us, we don't know. Those people who have winter, summer, and so on, they know how they manage their whatever, because that is how God created their environment there. But here in this country, where for us, we don't have summer, we don't have winter, we don't have autumn, we don't have all these things. Our environment was naturally created for us to remain what it is. But now that we have destroyed the natural part of it, I don't know how we shall manage, because the heat is simply too much. It is simply too much. I think people are going to faint, people are going to collapse, people are going to, but where those who are rich, who are spoiling everything for us, they have their air conditioning. I'm sure in their homes they are going to put this air conditioner. Then then warm. When it is warm, they put in Europe they put heater. I don't know whether that is what is going to happen, but unfortunately it can't work for us because God had created our environment very, very differently. And so we shall suffer because I don't expect this government to do anything to control what did you call it? The air what?
The heat wave.
The heat wave. Don't laugh at me. We senior citizens, our heads are full, so they are fully occupied, and many of the new things don't enter quickly. But this wave you are talking about, I can assure you the government of Uganda has nothing to do about it. If anything, it will continue worsening the situation, as you know. If surely that Nansana thing, the person is building, but you better be sure that it is happening. I wish we were having, can they put it there as they air my talk, because people who are going to be on this space, so that they confirm to the people who will watch, and they put there those buildings in that Nansana place to provoke Ugandans to really see and say enough is enough.
I can say about that. Honorable, that has been a very decisive conversation or take on your part. But you know, Uganda is heavily dependent on agriculture. Heavily dependent on agriculture. And for all his takes, this is something the president is particularly passionate about. Majority of the policies that he gets behind are heavily hinged on our agricultural sector. In the face of this heat crisis, surely no one can deny that our agricultural sector is going to be heavily impeded. So even in the face of that, you still anticipate that there will be no decisive government response? I
can't understand you. When you tell me that the president is passionate about agriculture, not passionate about military and his army. I want to ask you, if he's passionate about agriculture, how big is the budget that is invested in the agriculture compared to the budget in the military, the budget in state house, the budget in presidential office, or how many presidential advisors, how many of the, let me tell you, Matembe is passionate about the issue of gender equality and women's empowerment, and she lives it. But if you are passionate in the mouth and you are not passionate in the heart to make sure that what you are passionate about is worked on, do you describe that person as passionate? Now I want you to tell me, what are they going to do? All of a sudden the heat is already here, and we are already suffering. So is he going to stop running around the country telling people that PBM, what is it called? PDM has worked. Which work? Which PDM has done? You just pick a few women, the yellow women, then they come out. I saw them in Kabare, I saw them in Mbare, but you go there. The other day I was listening to my radio, people over this Chiganda radio, whatever. They went and visited those very rural people who are supposed to get that PDA. And they were speaking the truth, saying that for me, when I reached there, I asked, they wanted to give me 1 million, but to retain 300 out of the 1 million and give me 700. And I said I refused. And then another one saying, for me, I had nothing to do, so I had to give it to them. But now when Simanyi, the rain did not come and whatever and everything. Now, do you know what they were saying? They are saying, Kokarika Simo Cafe. That was this PDM they are talking about. They have now turned, because of this passion in elections and continuing to stay in power, and using all these resources now. I want to ask you, Simanyi, you said has stopped what they are there. Instead of reorganizing, the government program and the structuring the government expenditure and everything. Have you seen anybody do that?
No.
Instead, they are running out there, wasting the money, using it for nothing. Elections are automatically concluded. We know who will win because it is automatic. Now, why do you expect that such kind of leadership can even be affected? This man is even in his air conditioner. And when the cows in Rwachitura and where they see in where he has his cows in Chankwanzi, where I'm sure they are what do you call them, dams. I'm sure there is even what do you call this, the pumps to pump the
water?
and the electricity, the fire, the sun electricity, solar. There is solar energy, there is solar, all that. I'm sure they are already there in his place, so and in his brothers and family's place, so that their cows will live, they will survive. But for us who have plantations, and they are crying out for coffee, does it matter? Do they know? Because I do not believe in talking something and not acting it.
Yes.
So when you are talking with me, I don't know why you brought me here to provoke me. I had come to learn, but these are the things I'm telling you. I don't expect any. I'm telling you, Ugandans, if you are allowed to be fools, we shall suffer this problem. We shall suffer this heat, and the poor will be worse. You were talking of the girls going to fetch water. Honestly, to be honest, let me tell you, when I'm in my Kasumoro vehicle and the heat is too much, I put on a conditioner. When I see people walking outside on the street, those people on the border, the moment I get out of my vehicle, the heat is simply too much. But you can see such women in the rural areas who are now in the shamba, digging, trying to save their little farms and so on. I imagine, I don't know how they are going to be affected so badly. It's not only girls alone, it's human beings in this country, especially those who depend on the agriculture as you are talking about it, those who depend on their small cows and the goats and whatever. When the grass is so dry, when the animals cannot eat anything, and the hunger that is going to happen, what do they call it in the other language? When there is
Starvation?
the words these days get out of my head. Famine.
Oh, famine.
When there is famine, all these are coming. It's not a simple matter. All these are coming. So, unless the government, which I doubt very, very highly, can have sense and remove the foolishness in their heads, and have sense and say, surely, where is this nation going? And then reorganize the budget. If they organize the budget in such a way that it is geared towards mitigating the factors of this heat, air wave, then we can say yes. But me, I'm here talking, I'm waiting to see whether what I'm saying will be defeated or it will be correct.
Okay, Honorable, thank you so much. We continue to wait and look on. Nancy, we've had multiple conversations, obviously, in regards to policies and the like. I would like to bring you to what I hope is the gist of the matter. What we're witnessing here, multiple stakeholders and advocates have directed it towards an unequal sort of power, a perpetuation of unequal power dynamics, both in Uganda and across the globe, in regards to our resources and regards to our decision making and our policy implementation. So how do you think it has manifested in this particular issue, has manifested in the climate crisis, as well as the existing policies and how they have been directed and implemented, both in the Ugandan and global sectors? You could, especially from a feminist, I'm sure you understand unequal power distribution in this context.
Thank you so much. Yes, as a feminist, I approach this from an angle of inequality. No, I do not have the expertise of Denise. However, I understand it from this perspective. One, the masculinization of time. Two, capitalism. And three, the link to climate change. Now, let's just say that the masculinization of time is where, in simple terms, we relate everything to productivity, to efficiency, instead of prioritizing community and, you know, our environment and its ecosystem. So now capitalism, of course, we relate it mostly to colonial times, and this has manifested a lot in the way the colonialists came to Africa and extracted our resources in order to build their countries, to build their industries, to, you know, to fund their civilization.
So basically, sorry, so I understand. We have 1,000 cars being produced, but the community is being decimated, is being destroyed as a result. Direct correlation, right?
Direct correlation, very, very direct correlation. Now, this means that this extractive approach continues until today, and we see it in things that in even the economy, where they have globalized, they call it globalization of the economy. We take an extractive approach to everything. We are saying that agriculture, subsistence agriculture, no longer works. Let's industrialize agriculture. We put more trucks on the farms. You know, a lot of things, just expanding things and, you know, having quick results. But the result is that our environment suffers and our earth is being exhausted. We're exhausting things that we cannot replenish. Things like land that cannot come back. And you know, some of these things are so funny because we hear some of these rich people. I call them rich people because that is what they are. They keep saying that if maybe by like 2050 or something, yes, when the earth becomes extinct and we cannot live here, we'll go to Mars. Are you serious right now? How can we go to Mars yet we have an earth that heals itself? Our environment is our earth is so good because it adapts and it heals itself. You see, like if a person leaves a piece of land for 5 years, they leave it just like that, it will grow back. It will heal itself. Whether there was a lot of plundering on that land, a lot of activity that brings a lot of pollution on that land, after 5 years, the ecosystem will clean itself. The animals that were in the earth will continue to exist there. Now that's how we look at it. Now, in this perspective, we're saying that, you know, like Denise said, persons from the global north are the ones who are exploiting all these resources with their big industries, in their big cars and their block offices, and the people getting the brunt of the climate change are the people in the global south, namely Africa, South Asia, and South America, poor countries, people who cannot handle the consequences, themselves. And you know, we also know that this climate change is not just a heat wave, because when the rainfall comes, it's also going to come heavily in the maximum, extremely. That means we're going to get floods, we're going to get more people, drowning, their houses are going to flood up and they will have nowhere to be, people will be misplaced. A lot of things happen because of these things. So yes, it is an inequality problem in such a way that they keep telling us about things like, what was that? The what? What did you?
Credits?
The carbon credits. I generally disagree with things like carbon credits, because how dare we give back power to people who ruined the world? How are we giving carbon credits? How are we giving them power over managing the climate crisis that they caused? They're just going to increase it.
Because you are fools.
So these are things that you can talk about in boardrooms and they sound fancy. They have such fancy names, but they do not work in the long run, because at the end of the day, the earth is going to become inhabitable for everyone. And the thing is, real people are dying right now. We're not talking about far-reaching consequences like landslides, or like in time the place people won't be able to stay under the sun. Those are far-reaching consequences. But right now, people are dying because their crops didn't make it. That means they are so poor they won't be able to pay for their children in hospitals. That means that some people will not be able to go to classrooms because they've not been able to study. People on the streets will be collapsing because of heat stroke, because it's a real thing. You just get a heat stroke, you collapse, and that is it. So in my opinion, it's an inequality issue, and the fact that we are the ones supposed to actually take care of it doesn't make sense. I think we should stop listening to the rich men. We should stop we shouldn't even give them platform, because they do not, however much they hold a lot of power over us, especially in terms of money, they do not have our best interests at heart.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Joan, as a women's rights activist, but then also someone who has made it particularly clear that you care about the most vulnerable in society, especially with the work you do. How do you envision this particular crisis is going to affect in the long term, especially our most vulnerable in society? We have the elderly, we have the children, but especially the women. Already we have climate change disproportionately affecting women and girls in regards to especially their labor and their placement in society. How do you anticipate the long-term effects will be? We've discussed this, but I think this needs a particular area of focus.
Thank you so much. When we come to the women and girls and the vulnerable, we shall go deep into the children and who has thought about the albinos. If we are crying, what do you think our sisters and brothers are going through right now, the albinos? Who is advocating for them right now? And at most times, they're the ones who are at the grassroots level, and they are not being defended, they are not being helped out. So now let's talk about gender equality, how it is affecting women, how it is affecting girls. We have talked about these things. Our friends Denise and Dr. Matembe they have mentioned about it, but now let's go into its depth. When we talk about the health crisis, particularly when we talk about women, let's talk about the pregnant women. Do you know that women are having miscarriages right now? Women are having early births of children, and who is addressing such issues? They'll go to hospital, they'll give birth to these prematures, and we shall attach it to witchcraft. She was bewitched, that is why this is happening to her. So we are not going into the depths of the heat wave.
I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Honorable, can we get you something? You look like you're eating well. Maybe a hanky or something.
No, it was heat. It was too much, but they have adjusted it.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Please proceed.
So when we talk about children, there is brain development. There is dehydration. Right now, we are all in need of water. Water is the order of the day.
Yeah.
I was at a friend's yesterday but one, and she was telling me that every day she makes a jerrycan, a 5-liter small jerrycan of juice, because she has a little baby of 2 years who keeps on demanding every 2 seconds, mommy juice, mommy juice, mommy juice, mommy juice. And now that kind of dehydration, that kind of brain damage, because not everyone is going to access juice, not everyone is going to access water. We have children who are going to school. There is one I was talking to recently, and she was telling me a bottle of water is no longer enough. She needs more than 2.
Yeah.
And she's only in a few those who can carry water from home. Many of the colleagues are also taking water from the taps. And what does that go to? That is a health crisis as well. Because you're going to have so many children, so many pupils who are suffering from
typhoid
waterborne
and all
the other
diseases.
related diseases.
Yeah.
When we talk about the issue of health, women giving premature deaths, other babies are dying, women are having miscarriages, others are dying along the way, and no one is addressing. The albinos are also suffering in the same way. No one is addressing the issue. Then we go into the health crisis where people are taking unboiled water, and then they're also getting sick. And then when we talk about malnutrition, it will also bring us back to the health crisis. Recently I was in a meeting and we were talking about malnutrition, and we were told that beyond 5 years of age, as long as your brain is stunted, there is no retrieving it.
Yes,
and these are the people that we are grooming to be you know, the next generation of tomorrow to, you know, to become the heroes of the country, of the nation, to put our nations forward. But here they have stunted growth of the brain. And these are all things that are going to be being affected. It is an effect of the heat wave, and we are not addressing it. When we go into gender-based violence, who has looked into gender-based violence? My friend here talked about scarcity of water. Scarcity of water, that means the wells are running dry, and now you have to move a longer distance to go and fetch water. And who fetches the water? It is the girl child. It is the women that fetch water. They are missing school because they have to go a longer distance to fetch this water. And along the way, this is where they're going to be raped, sexually harassed. And who is going to look into that? So for us, it is going to be a normal thing. We're going to keep on moving, but these girls have been affected already. In the long run, they are going to drop out of school. In the long run, they're going to become child mothers. In the long run, that is fistula, because they're giving birth at a point where they should not be giving birth. And then for us, we shall only be addressing the numbers of fistula, but we shall not be looking at what caused that fistula back then. We shall be looking at the girls who have dropped out of school, but we shall not be looking deep down in what caused to the increase of numbers, and that is poverty in the long run. Because if you've dropped out, you're a child taking care of another child, that is poverty altogether. No one is helping the other. The economic bit of it, Dr. Matembe talked about feeling sorry for the women who are on streets. Do you know that it is mostly women who are vendors on streets? And this is their survival. This is their income. And now she's being hit. And what do they sell? They sell fruits, but do we have fruits to sell in this economical, you know, agricultural crisis? Because with this heat wave, we do not expect passion fruits to grow. We do not expect pineapples, good pineapples to grow. We shall have pineapples which are extremely dry. And what does the client want? The client wants class, something that is up to standard. And here you're selling substandard things, which are also expensive because they are also scarce. So you'll find that it is going to affect the entire chain, the agriculture chain, where there is low productivity of food, at the same time, increase of prices in the food, and it is the women who are also going to go back home and they're expected to put food on the table. Children do not have food because food is expensive. Children do not have food because even those that get it from the garden, there is nothing to get from the garden because it's January. It is sun after sun, and all we are doing is making fun. Like she said that we are a country of fools. I will not disagree to that. Because instead of advocating for our rights, we are on TikTok saying, who annoyed the sun? Who annoyed the sun? Men annoyed the sun. We are just making fun of it. Instead of, you know, bringing stakeholders and holding them accountable, people are making, putting a photo of the Minister of Finance,
colleagues, rain will come.
Honorable Kaseja, and they're saying, colleagues,
rain
will come.
But is that not indicative of the level of it's sort of a trauma response, I would say. Ugandans have become so accustomed to not receiving any kind of
they have given
relief,
up, and now they are resorting to having it as
humor.
comedy.
Yeah.
But that will not solve anything. We have to keep on trying. Otherwise, what will happen then when we give up? What will become of us? We have stated that if our children have already had stunted brains, that means there is no future generation ahead of us. If girls have dropped out of school and they are not studying anymore because they have gotten pregnant, sexually harassed, then that means we do not have a future of educated girls in the future. And then if we have mothers who have had premature deaths, these children are equally affected in growth. We cannot, I'm not a doctor, but I cannot say that will be 100%, you know, right for such a child. They have already been infringed of their rights of being born at a point of 9 months. Then when we talk about the economical crisis, it will affect in so many various ways. It will also bring up gender-based violence. There is no mother, there is no man who is going to be in a family and is emotionally distressed, and then they will not, you know,
lash out.
Yes. They will definitely start quarreling at everyone. Whoever crosses, you get yours. Whoever crosses, you get your portion of, you know, abuse. And what will that bring? People are going to start fighting it. And maybe lastly, what I can say is the menstrual hygiene as well. The girl child is suffering. There is no water. What do you expect her to do in this crisis of water, in this crisis of the heat wave? And then she has to keep clean. So there is much to
Hydrated as well.
discuss. But what I can conclude with is that in our small capacities, there are small things that we can do. As mothers, let us keep our children hydrated. As mothers, let us have water. There are days where we're having extra water of the rain. Why should we wait for national water? The people who have waited for national water forever, which will never come. But you can, you can have jerry cans and get rainwater. You can have these big tanks, and then you have your personal water, so that you do not have to send the girl child to go and fetch water in further places where she will be raped. And mind you, she is not going to be able to tell you, because we're in an African society where you cannot easily disclose certain things, because this is how we've been raised. So we can do small things within our communities and raise that kind of awareness. That is going to the civil society organizations. Let us raise awareness. Let us advocate for the rights of the people and make sure that we bring it.
Thank you so much, Joan.
No, I was going to talk about menstrual hygiene, but
Of course, Nancy, thank you. Denise, I'll bring the conversation back to you. A few points you've mentioned, especially one of them that stuck out to me was in regards to sustainability. The Global North always preaches the idea of us shifting to a more sustainable system. A more sustainable system means, okay, we're going to be switching to maybe more solar power. From fossil fuels, we're going to be switching to electric-powered vehicles. But how sustainable is sustainable for a country like Uganda, economically, structurally? Are we even structurally placed to be sustainable? But also in that regard, in the face of what the global, or what our other stakeholders in this matter, or the other citizenry of the world are doing, if Uganda, with Uganda's policies, is it actually, are we actually doomed from the start? Are we just putting a band-aid on a really large wound that we cannot actually heal? Or can local action truly make an impact? And in regards to local action, what exactly could local action look like further in regards to the average person, and also further for the government? I know that's a very heavy question, but...
Yeah, I'm going to try and fit it in a few minutes.
Mhm.
So I think for the first part of your question, really how sustainable and maybe how financially can Uganda as a country be able to transition to a greener economy or sustainability? I just want to ask a question. You see, our Ministry of Energy has continuously said that we are supposed to go sustainable, clean cooking methods, and they're advocating for things like gas. But how many people in Uganda can afford to fill a gas a year? And that speaks to most of the alternatives, most of the solutions that our government usually gives us. When you talk about going sustainable, that means that probably you need hybrid, you need electric cars.
Yeah.
How many people can be able to afford electric cars, even past 2019 buying the new model cars?
And are we all connected to electricity as a country?
Exactly. Now that's what I'm coming to. You find that most of us are off the grid. Like when you go to the village, even in my village, in Rukunji, where I come from in the municipality, we don't have electricity. Up to now, we have never had electricity in the municipality. and that's why you expect...
What do you do? Solar energy?
we are trying biogas.
Yeah, same.
Yes,
in
biogas,
Ruchika.
you try, but not even so. But that's the municipality. That's how bad it
In
is.
Rukunjiri?
Yes.
Maybe because of you people hosting base here. You have a child dangerous.
No, I actually come from Rujumbura, MP's Jimbo's.
No, I mean it is from Rukunjiri, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey.
But still, there are very many people who are off the grid, that even when you go to your villages in Christmas, you need to go to the nearest trading center to be able to charge your phone. You can't be able to charge from home. And these are the people that you expect to be able to use cleaner energy, to be sustainable. And you see, our government continuously says that we have brought electricity nearer to the people. We have continuously built these dams, but you do not see that electricity. And this also speaks to things like solar panels. How many people can be able to afford solar panels in such a Uganda? Like, not even people are struggling for a meal. And I usually say that maybe as the rich people and everyone who benefits from this economy works to get fit, they don't know that actually people now walk 15 kilometers to get water. As they're discussing in boardrooms that have air conditioning and all that, they cannot be able to make a policy for someone on the street who has spent there the whole day selling dolls, they're selling whistles. That is how bad our economy is. Someone on the street is selling dolls that are singing balloons the whole day, and that is a person you expect to go sustainable. So these solutions that the Global North tries to impose or tries to paint are so far away from us, because even as we talk about things like equal, we could discuss how the East African crude oil pipeline is dangerous, but we could also discuss how financially it's going to benefit Ugandans, because we have seen over time many projects that have not benefited Ugandans and the money has gone into corruption. Even when they try to say it is environmental sustainable, and let's agree, but is this money really going to benefit the Ugandans that is going to come from this oil? I think it is also problematic. Now, going to your question, are we doomed from the start or anything? I think we doomed ourselves. The government itself with its policies, like I told you, like Victoria with the sand mining, and it is shrinking over time.
Honestly, and we've been shouting about this.
So you find that all our natural resources that could be able to take in the carbon dioxide, that could be able to take in all this, no longer exist. Bugoma forestry, Budongo, all the forests we usually used to sing around and say it's the pride of Africa, you know, Uganda, the pearl of Africa, and we always say tourism, nature. In 10 years now time, they are not going to be anything to tour, because everything is shrinking, forests are no longer existing, and the beauty that we used to pride ourselves in is no longer existing. So I think even when the solutions are far out of reach, I think we as citizens, there is something we can do. You see, NEMA is funny. Last time it said that everyone should have a dustbin in their car. And then after how many days, I don't know, even a month didn't end, and then the law was nowhere to be seen. And these are some of the things, when you look at plastics and how they block the entire city sewage and how you have all these problems. I think we can be responsible for something as a bottle of water. If I take water and then I'm able to dispose it off well, then likely I'm not going to cause all these things that are going to happen, because plastic itself or Akakikunda takes about 1,000 years to be able to decompose and all this. And you see, we are based on agriculture and we sell our soil. These are some of the things that we can do. If you have access to electricity, reducing your energy, if you're not using your lighting, if you're not using your appliances, switching them off, because you're having something that is called carbon footprint. Like your carbon yourself as a person increases. Food waste. Do you know that most of agriculture is the biggest contributor actually to climate change? When you look at methane, when you look at all the fertilizers that are used within agriculture and all that, and food waste itself, the gases it produces, the things of serving food and not being able to finish it and throwing it away. Such things, food waste, being able to be responsible for the food that you eat. And this goes on and goes on and goes on as something that we can do on an individual level. Even when our governments fail us, I don't think we can fail our land, we can fail our future. And besides that, the environment can do without us, but people cannot do without the environment. So those are some of the things really that can be done.
Thank you so much, Denise. I think you have ably dissected the topic. I love your point of the environment can do without us, but truly we cannot do without the environment. And honestly speaking, though our government might fail us, truly as individuals, we ought not to fail ourselves and fail our future and fail our environment. As we get to the last part of the show, Honorable, I'd like to ask you a more politically charged question in regards to this particular topic. This heat wave, I think, has been one that has made it more practical for us to understand where we're standing as a country in regards to climate change. This question of climate change has been one that has been sung since I was in primary school. Primary school, we knew that there was something that was happening. When we saw Mama Miria, we knew there was something that was happening, but we didn't fully feel it. And you know, as Africans, we must feel, we must see, we must touch to understand that something is happening. Do you foresee that this could in any way shift the way the people have perceived the government, especially in light of the 2026 elections? Do you think that
Ugandans.
Like, 2026 is right around the corner. People had ideas on who they were going to vote for. People had ideas on how, from their MP, from your local. I think we have really misunderstood the role of an MP. From your MP to your local leaders, do you think this is in any way going to shift?
You see, for me, I'm a very, very realistic person. I don't hide things. I speak them as they are. Because for sure, the first statement I gave you when I began and I talked, that those are how many years ago of the Mama Mavira.
Nearly 20.
While the people themselves who knew, who were knowledgeable, were fighting for conservation of our environment. The Chamuzi, Chamuzi, you may say that one, but they were fighting. For me, for instance, I was not part of that big fight, because for me, I fight a different battle. But I can remember during that time, for me as a person, as an individual, I saw Lake Victoria. I live at Lake Victoria, Port Bell. I saw the lake being invaded. You know, even during COVID, those rich people you talk who built in the wasteland, they call it wetland. If you look at that Utaruka area right now, like all the houses there which are there, and then at Uganda breweries, I had to go, we were telling LOCs, please talk, and the Ministry of Lands they were with us there. They were those 3 women ministers and the PS and so on. I said, since now I'm at least a retired, what do I call it, leader in this country, former minister, I said, no, let me go to the Ministry of Lands. Water, I even called my husband, let's go. And we went there to talk to those owners of the ministry. The Lake Victoria, Uganda Breweries was given, Lake Victoria was given to Uganda Breweries. And Uganda Breweries went and all their stores, all their that when that lake raises, I'm telling you, I don't know what will happen. And when we talked to these people, they said, Munang, powers from above. Powers from above. The permanent said powers from above. When we went to the ministers were hiding from us. I went 3 days there trying to sort out the situation. Now, if I could not sort it out how many years ago, and now it has come. There are certain proverbs or examples which in our language we say. Like, is it a frog? Which
You see a frog outside?
No, when it is in the water, it is warm. They say, you get out. He says, it is getting warm. By the time, I have forgotten those proverbs, but they are different. By the time they
realize it's boiling?
Now there is also this thing which goes into the kasori. You know that, is it maggot or what?
Yeah.
It goes into a maize. And then it is there enjoying the maize. When they get it and put it in on the sfria to cook, then the warmth begins. I will get out. By the time he says he will get out, the kasura has boiled. You see, today I was reading a letter from somebody. I haven't finished it. They sent it on WhatsApp. And this man amazed me because he was talking to His Excellency. And he was saying, Your Excellency, you wait a minute. You will wake up when you are like Samson. He was quoting the scripture. Many people don't read the Bible. But we know of this man Samson, whom God had created to finish the Philistines. And he had given him a secret to not cut his hair. And of course he went and he was finishing the Philistines and so on, like Museveni came Savarwany and finished all those people. And he settled down and said, now I am here. This letter amazed me. It was saying, you man, you are going to wake up one day and you find the energy like Samson has left you. He was saying, why don't you see the signs? Why don't you see the signs? And I saw this letter, I said, this is a wonderful letter. I wish this man could read it, but even if he could read it, Samson was there. Why could he have revealed his secret to this woman who was a concubine sent to him to destroy him? And so he was saying, why don't you learn? So now these Ugandans are talking about this sun, the heat wave is going to affect their choice. The elections, what are you talking about? They will even be more of whatever the word I used, that word. They will be even more, because now that the hunger will be more, the poverty will be more, and the cry out will be more. They will be running after anybody who can give them the little money. And I don't see them waking up and changing their mind. But for me, what I want to say is this. When I shouldn't say when I grew up. When we came to talk about this environment, for instance, when I went to Ayebare first time, I was at the university. I went to visit Ayebare. We went there as young students, you know how you go to enjoy life. When we reached there, what is this hotel? They used to have the white horse. We went there. He was with my friends. When we reached there, we said, give us chairs, sit outside there. When we went outside, within about a few minutes, and we had gone there to sleep in the Ayebare, within a few minutes, the coldness was too much. Then we went inside. Then they put us near the heat where they heat there. And then by the time we finished our lunch, we said, no, we can't manage this cold. We ran back to Mbarara. And that was in 1974. So imagine Ayebare with the wetland. It was very good. It was still okay. They had not cut the trees. They had not gone into to graze their cows or whatever. So it was such a fantastic thing. And then eventually they started cutting. Now what came to my mind is what I want to say here. I said, how come? You see what happened? These British colonialists, they would say, don't touch the swamp. Don't go in the swamp. Don't go into this. Don't cut trees. There were rules, and those rules were being enforced. And as you hear a rule and follow it without its meaning, they never explained to the Ugandan people, why is it that we must put forests? Why is it that we shouldn't go into the swamp? Why is this? They never said why, but their law worked up to our independence. And even after independence, like I was telling you, things were still doing well. But because they never explained to the people why they should preserve, that's why they just went into these swamps. Even before the government came in to accomplish the whole thing, people were already, cutting forests, going there. I don't know whether it's because of increase of population or whatever, because that one also contributed to that. But for me, what I saw as was crucial was not telling people why not to do something. I think we need the kind of education like we did when we educated about AIDS. I was at the forefront of the fight for HIV/AIDS. And would tell the people, and they would understand the impact of that thing on them themselves. And the moment you see that this thing is not about self, but it is about all of us, because it will affect all of us. That's why, and there is nothing to benefit out of it. That's why you see we managed to fight against AIDS. While you can't fight against corruption, because some people benefit from it and others don't benefit. Those who don't benefit fight it, those who benefit take it. But if we can say, well, we should not lament, something has come, And it is not only for today, but it is a sign to show us, Vanang, if you don't rise up and do what is right, things are very bad. Then we would begin also as human beings. Plant at your home, even your homestead, plant there a forest. You know, put something that would protect, you know, the environment. But as of now, people don't know, oh, environment, they don't know. It's only those who are passionate about the environment that they are doing the right thing. So for me, I think educating the Ugandans about showing them, you see what we are telling you, you see, they will wake up and say, now, the environment affects me as an individual, it affects me as a person and a family and a community. If they relate it to themselves, then we can do something, even each of us individually, to know why we should protect such and such a thing.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Ladies, we have come to the close of the show. I will ask us all, starting with Nancy, going to Joan, then Denise, and finally Honorable, to give us a brief closing remarks in regards to this topic. But you know, if you have any call, particularly to any stakeholders or just the citizenry or the global community at this point, please feel free to express this.
Thank you so much. I do not believe in the goodwill of the global community, especially in terms of climate justice, or the government itself, because they collude to get the short-time benefits of extracting our natural resources. However, I do have a call to everyone and in every individual in their own capacity. I believe that things like climate change, we should react to it as a social responsibility, like all of our speakers said. So do not drop that kavera on the road. Dump that, sort out your waste. Put the plastics differently, put the decomposing matter differently. Believe me, certain things make a difference. They make a difference at the end of the day. And also caution someone you see doing those things, because sometimes you seem like a wiseacre, but you're saving the earth, because at the end of the day, nature, when it comes in its disastrous mood, does not exclude. It doesn't exclude anyone. It doesn't say whether or not you're rich, whether or not you're poor, whether or not you have a roof over your head. Sometimes it sweeps the roof over your head because it is that disastrous, and we need to look at it as an urgent issue because it affects every sector. Tourism, it affects education, it affects healthcare, and that means that it affects our daily lives as it is. But also we need to remember that this is not just a normal thing. It is an inequality question, because the benefits that people talk about of extracting and using these resources belong to a limited few. And for me, I like to say a few men benefit from that, and then the rest of the world suffers because of it. So we need to be cautious, we need to take action, and you know, build a better environment for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Joan, please go ahead. Me, I only have a call to government to have gender responsive budgeting, gender responsive policies. Honorable Matembe is, you know, but
I'm laughing because you know who is government. You know the women who are the center of government, right from the prime minister, the what, or the prime minister, the speaker, the whatever. What are they doing? You talk of policies of gender balance.
Probably in the next government. Probably in the next government, let us have gender responsive policies that will accommodate.
I'm sure they are there.
That will accommodate all of us, because for me, I'm talking from a perspective of, you know, gender equality, where women and girls are the most affected people, so that they are also being included, and then also let women come up to be on, you know, on those tables of decision making.
On the table,
yes,
like
and,
a menu. They should be at the table.
At the table.
The current ones are on the table,
Thank you
like
so
a
much.
menu. They should be at the table and participate in
Yes.
asking for which menu.
Yes, because back then when you stood up, you know,
there is something, there is an impact that you brought to this country. So I'm also calling upon so many other women who can be like Honorable Matembe and come up and speak up. They will bring a difference to the society.
Thank you so much, Joan. Denise, please, your brief closing. Yeah, of course I'll be very brief. I just want to say one thing, that the thoughts and prayers of our government will not save us at this point. And as it looks, we are the ones supposed to save ourselves. Like everyone has said, let's take personal responsibility. Let's try to be responsible for the choices we make. Even when we have a chance to make the right decision, even when we don't believe in our government. The other day, I saw something that maybe the government also sold our ozone layer. So you see how people think our government is that corrupt to have even sold our ozone layer. So let's try to be responsible for the choices we even make. Don't cut down that tree. Try to be innovative and creative. If you can't plant in a garden right now, try to do backyard farming, organic farming, backyard farming. Try to do small that you can be able to save as much as maybe hydroponic farming and all these things that even when
What are those hydroponic people? Do they know how?
Hydroponic is the way of farming in water, not using soil. You just plant the crops in water because crops grow by water. They don't grow because of the soil. Yes. So such things. Try to use those Renzori big bottles that hires to plant greens, to plant some crops in your backyard, even when you don't go to the farm.
Even sacks, right?
Exactly. Not going to the farm where the sun is as much as possible, where it can burn us. So it's a whole that let's be responsible. Let's take our individual responsibility, and even when the government fails us, let's not fail ourselves.
Thank you so much, Denise. Honorable, please go ahead.
For me, my call, I want to say that when you know the disease, you know diagnosis is very important. People continue treating without knowing. But the moment you know the disease, that is the beginning of healing. And so for me, my call to Ugandans, that now the experience is showing them that they need to know the disease. What is it that is affecting this nation? And for me, one of the things that is affecting this nation is Ugandans not loving their nation. Because if each of us loved our nation, and whatever action we are taking is towards our nation, improving our nation, and for the future, looking at Uganda as Uganda will live and live after us, and other people will come in, so that we don't look at Uganda as our personal project and we do all the things we do focusing at ourselves. I'm telling that to the leaders. Then to the non-leaders, we Ugandans, we should really have known that the leadership is taking us nowhere. The current leadership, if we take away self-centeredness from our hearts and we look at our nation as the nation for which will live forever beyond us, and then we shall be able to get leaders who are going to lead us in the right direction. And in the meantime, I want to call upon all those people who have sufficient knowledge, like you young lady, you are talking of those things I don't know. If you know how to mediate or to help people, if they can't go to their garden, if they can't, then if you know how to teach them how to still continue plant their food and still live. I'm calling upon all those who know such kind of knowledge, information and technique to go and spread it among the people. I personally have never stopped fighting for justice, equality and fairness. The moment I get to know something, I get out today, I talk. So I'm calling upon all of our people now. For you, you are on Twitter, you know these things you discuss. Me, I'm not there. Technologically, I'm not so advanced. I'm only advancing in age. But even you can use that technology of yours to teach your colleagues so that we redeem Uganda. Uganda needs redemption. But as long as we are in the way we are, self-centeredness, corruption, desperation, giving up, all these kind of things are going to conspire and combine to really heal us completely. I want you to have a positive attitude that even then, even now, we can still redeem this nation with the help of our God, of course. Doesn't our motto say, for God and my country?
Yeah.
But you know, we violated our covenant with God, and we are doing the opposite of what God wants. And therefore my call is return to our God. Our forefathers covenanted this nation to God, but we have violated that covenant. Return to God and let us look at obeying and serving God and his people, and he will redeem us.
And thank you so much, Honorable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close of yet another episode of Women Speaking. The topic today has been one that goes down to our core survival as human beings and the survival of our planet. March, as all of you know, is Women's Month. The theme this year is Accelerating Action, a call to acknowledge the resources, strategies, and policies that can positively advance women. I think this is particularly relevant to the topic at hand when we speak of the policies, the strategies, the resources that can advance not just women but our very existence as human beings. So as we continue forward, I would ask us to take the personal initiative to not just advance our existence but actually maintain our existence. We as a people are at risk. So take personal responsibility and hold those that ought to be held accountable. Educate yourself on matters in regards to climate to the best of your ability, and just see the steps that you can take. This Saturday is Women's Day, so on behalf of all of us at Civic Space and those of us of Women Speaking, happy Women's Day to all the women out there, and to everyone, have a good afternoon. My name is Turiho Danita. I have been your host.